Hey,
We made it.
we did. with a lot going on there. Good. Hey, there's Autumn. That's actually my sister-in-law. And she would be actually an excellent candidate for your program because she's a Christian artist and she owns a Little Leaf Art Studio in Valdosta, Georgia, and she mostly works with children.
Awesome.
At this, she's developed it into her full-time income. So she's done really, really well.
I love it.
Yeah. Hey, Wendy. And there's Cheryl. So, all right, they're popping on.
Thanks.
I'm not getting the usual counter that says, the ticker that says, we've been going for 1 minute and 2 seconds. Do you see anything on your screen?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope that it's going. Evidently it is because we're getting the tech. Are you able to see the chats?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, how are you doing, Matt?
Doing great. I appreciate the opportunity, man. This is fun.
Good. Now, listen, you are a pro at this because I've spent some time on your blog sites and I've seen your interviews and stuff. And so you're the third interview I've ever done in my life. So you feel free to
be gentle,
take the lead. That's right. That's the case. That was the dumbest question anybody you could have asked.
That's right.
I love how I'm seeing your studio, but it looks so nice in the background. And mine always looks like something exploded, but we are literally, I have two people loading up a trailer, connected to our backyard right now as we are moving. And so everything is just really helter-skelter, but we did not know.
Right? So
that's right. When we set the interview, we did not know, but we just got an offer at our house last Saturday. So we're excited. Yeah. And, but there could be some unusual noises and stuff. Hey, Cheryl. Hey, Debbie. There's Sandra.
Hey, Sandra. Woohoo. As people are coming on, I'll just show them real quick. This is kind of where I work back here, which is my all my materials and that sort of thing. This is where I do encaustic, and then I'll walk up here.
Ooh.
It's fun to get the tour, right?
Yeah.
Then this is over here. I've got about 2,000 square feet, and so part of it's a gallery and part of it's workspace. So this is kind of the gallery part back here. And then there's also some up here when you come in.
Ooh.
See, so I carry a number of different painters as well as ceramicists with my work and video and that sort of thing. We're in the River Arts District, which is in Asheville. We're kind of a center for fine craft in America. And so it's about 220 artists in 23 different buildings. So you can see here I do big fireplace pieces and things like that. And what I'm doing is, I'll show everybody, I do encaustic wax over baskets. And so I'm making the baskets and actually harvesting the materials right out of the woods and then using copper and ceramic and things like that. So you can really get an idea of the texture there.
Wow, that is amazing.
So it's a lot of fun. And I've been doing it like 25 years, so, and I'm still doing it.
Now, seriously, who else does this? I mean, am I just naive? I've never heard of anybody doing wall-mounted woven pieces like that.
Yeah, nobody. It's one of those things that I just, after you do, let me get seated again here. After you kind of do something for so long, I did traditional baskets for 15 years, and just as a hobby in the garage. And then I really started wanting to take that to the next level. And as I did, I started really seeing nature not just as a source of materials, but really as a source of inspiration. And so I started creating things that were more sculptural in nature. And from there, creating forms with basketry techniques, but I didn't want it to say basket per se. I wanted to say nest, pod, things like that. And then that started the whole, which I've always hated this phrase mixed media, because it's like, that just means you can't choose. But I think I've turned into one. And so, because now we do metal and clay and driftwood and the basketry stuff and all that. And so
that kind of reminds me of my primary, I'm a counselor. And so, and every counselor I've ever met, no matter what your discipline is, after 10 years of doing it, you say that your therapeutic modality is eclectic, because you pull from several different resources and stuff, but we use that word a lot in my field. Yeah.
So I've loved it. It's been wonderful. And it's, since 2009, I've been making my full-time living from that, in addition to the books I write and the mentoring and all that. But people are always surprised, you know, they'll have read a book or something and they come in and they're like, "You're here." And I'm like, well, somebody's got to make baskets and somebody's got to, you know, do all this. So myself and my studio assistant, Kathy, who's over there hiding, she's laughing. We're here just about every day, and studio open, and so it's wonderful to make and be able to do the things that you really love. So
that is really awesome. That's really awesome. I see Debbie and Donna and Johanna is joined us here, and so thanks so much for joining us today, guys.
Awesome.
And I know a lot of them actually are very familiar with you. We've had conversations with you and what you do, and
they still join today. This is great. So
yeah, that's neat. Hey, Lynn, that's great. Well, how about telling us a bit about your background? You already started, but how you evolved into where you are today. I mean, the listeners from the What's Selling group has about 4,000 members on it. All these people came here because of doing the acrylic paint pouring, and we all got addicted, and we now have dozens and dozens and stacks of, you know, maybe even hundreds of these paintings, you know, in our. Typically, they come and join my group here after their spouse has said, "You have got to start selling." So,
got to do something, right? Better start pouring on top of some things because we got to.
That's right. Oh yeah, that happens a lot. And so, if you can kind of help, you know, that's your audience, and you know, as far as them, what is the next step? And we got a lot of people that have not sold a thing, or people that are selling things for $30 or $40, right? You know, barely getting their costs back. And so anything that you can do to help us out, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my story is like a lot of people, like I mentioned previously, I started as a hobby. I actually found a book on basket making in college and was enamored by the idea of going into the woods and harvesting natural materials. And so I did that with kudzu, which is our southern invasive vine down here. Started making baskets, and I was doing $25, $30 baskets, making a little fun money. As I got better at it over the years, I would do it around Christmas time or in the fall and make my Christmas money and, you know, things like that. And I never really gave it any other thought. As things began to kind of change in our life and we moved up here to Asheville in 2009, I really wanted my baskets to be more than they had been. And I had a marketing background and also a ministry background. So kind of, I knew how to really interact with people and tell story and that sort of thing. And I think, you know, the thing that I tell people about buying art is that nobody buys art because they need it. They buy because of connection. And otherwise you just become a commodity. And especially with things like Etsy and Fine Art America and Saatchi and, you know, Artful Home, all these, they're wonderful, but really all those are just fancy shopping carts that unless you built a connection with somebody over time with either what you do, how you do it, or who you are, then there's really not an opportunity for you to leverage the market to sell your art. And I think the other part of that is something we call USP, or unique selling proposition, or we may call it differentiation. That is being different in the market. And I think that's one of the things, you know, when I came on the market here in Asheville in really 2010, after we kind of got established here, I started realizing that anything that I made that was crooked, wonky, on a stick, organic, and, you know, people can go to my website and kind of see what I do, but I do things that are kind of like they're growing and moving and all that. People just loved it. And for me, it started giving me a lot more freedom, but the freedom that I have creatively now and the ability to build a business out of that came from not being afraid to be different and listening to how the market really responded to me and kind of pushing into the things they loved in the context of what I loved to make. And
wow,
that's a lot, you know, maybe we can pause there because there's a lot of juicy stuff there. So
there really is. And it, you know, if I'm definitely going to go over this, I'm going to play it again and take notes then, but there's so many things that I was just itching to write down, you know, that it'll be amazing if you top the first thing you said, which is building a connection with your buyer and having that relationship. And the more that I've found in life, particularly as we get into high tech and low touch, in everything that we do, I mean, we buy 50% of our groceries on Amazon now, you know, is that relationship connection that the world is, as it's evolved and changed, is just starving for. And so particularly with a high investment piece, a piece that somebody's going to enjoy and give to their children, you know, and could invest, you know, I know you sell your pieces for thousands of dollars now instead of $20, and that's awesome.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, that's right. And so that is, you know, it's going to be hard to top that one. But I do want to challenge everybody who's listening to take notes. And I just, as we always do, there's going to be several nuggets. And even if you just glean one of them from Matt today, I know that that's going to make a big difference in where you're heading. So he's probably, because he is so much more advanced than everybody here in his business, probably, you know, this might be some high level stuff that is shared. Don't get overwhelmed by that. Just take a piece, take a nugget, and I challenge you, listener, to find one thing that you can implement in the next week. And then maybe the next week review this video and implement a second thing. But Matt, so far, I mean, that is really just awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think so, you know, connection then looks like a lot of different things depending on how you like to sell. You know, some people really enjoy the idea of selling only online or through galleries and that sort of thing. For me, I'm a real people person. And so I love, you know, I've got the door locked right now, but my studio is open to the public. And so I'm making at the same time people are coming in and talking to me. And I found over the years for me, that really works well. And so, you know, building connection though is all about relationship. And I think from a media perspective, you know, doing things like this, Facebook Live, we've all got a smartphone nowadays. You know, taking those beautiful close-up pictures, having them on Instagram, talking about process. You know, I always tell people, take pictures of your work in people's homes or get them to take pictures. You know, almost every big piece that I do, you know, a piece like this one right here, this on the fireplace is almost $4,000. They go from $4,000 to $10,000 depending on, you know, what they are. But usually I'm taking those to somebody's house. I just did that on a Sunday afternoon. A buddy of mine, we drove all the way to Nashville, Tennessee, 4.5 hours to install a beautiful piece. But the whole time I was telling him, I said, Mark, did you hear what they said? They loved the work, but they kept talking about the connection, how impressed they were that we came over, how much they liked me, how much they loved the process. And so people that have money to really invest in art are not, price is never the top thing that they're concerned about. And for many artists, that's the thing that freaks them out, because so many artists live in this kind of starving artist thing. And so they're all like, whoa, or my friends won't buy it, or it's too expensive, or what if they don't do this, all that. And I'm like, listen, that is nothing but a bunch of head game, that if you can get out of that and learn to respond authentically to how people respond to your work, you have much more opportunity to grow your business and grow your confidence as an artist.
That's really, really excellent. You know, again, I'm paralleling my other half of my world, which is doing therapy and coaching. And my big thing that I've always done every year is, I've done over the years, last 20 years, is emotion, is mood management. And I teach processes called mind-based mood management to help people with that, because we're so disconnected as a society. But what I'm hearing you say is that when somebody walks by their mantle for the next several decades, and they look at that piece, the feeling that they get from it is their connection with you, and that warm, fuzzy, this is, you know, I know Matt, I've maybe even seen where he created this. I know a bit about his process, which causes us to appreciate it so much more. And what they're buying is an emotional connection that now resides on the wall of their house.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is, you know, I love it because a lot of times I'll actually go to people's property and harvest materials from their property, deepening the connection. But I'll have people, you know, I can hear them as they come in the door, and you'll hear them. Now, Lou G, this is my friend that did this, and, you know, he came to our house and da-da-da-da-da. And you hear them, what are they doing? They're telling the story. They're rehearsing what's going on. And that is the best advertising and marketing that you can ever get. Because I always tell artists, we're not out there trying to sell our stuff. If you're trying to sell your stuff, you're missing the boat. You need to be worried about building connection. I just had a woman the other day in our mentoring program. She said, you know, she came in, she didn't quite buy everything that I was, you know, talking about with this, but she was doing one of her first shows, and She said, well, I'm going to do what Matt said. You know, don't think of marketing as transactional, but relational. And she said she had the best time that she's ever had at one of those kind of shows. She sold more work in that show than she sold all last year. And she got a couple of commissions and built relationships. And she's like, oh my gosh, this really worked. You know, it just takes the pressure off. And I think there's something, you know, really satisfying about knowing that you're in the right place during the right time, you know, the right time doing the right thing. And that as you do that and build authentic relationships, the sales will come. Sales are the fruit of relationships built well. So, and nurture.
Well, I remember about a year ago, I tagged in an article that you did on introvert and extrovert, you know, selling your art through, you know, because I believe, and I do, everybody's probably familiar with the 4 personality temperaments, and half of us are introvert and half of us are extroverts. So we can assume that about half the people listening are freaking out right now by what you're saying, as far as I have to go to shows and I have to connect. But I also know from reading the article and even posting it on this group about a year ago, I think it was, that there's also ways for the introvert to be able to do this too. And so I'd love it if you could speak into that too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, so an introvert, I've come to believe, although I may be wrong, but I really believe that I'm sort of an extroverted introvert. I can do this kind of thing really well, but when I'm done with people, I'm like done. My recharging time is alone. I'm a gardener, so I love being out there and that sort of thing. So I think it's all about knowing who you are and how you do life and how you like to interact with people. For some people, you know, I had a studio mate here in this studio years ago. We created completely differently. She needed to be totally in the zone, music in, no distractions, you know, that sort of thing. And me, I'm like, y'all come on in, look at what I'm doing. Great. All that. Neither one right or wrong. You just got to know. And I think a big part, not only of growing up as an adult and becoming a mature person, healthy, you know, emotionally, relationally, that sort of thing, but also as an artist, is drawing boundaries and understand, okay, this is how I need to do life in order for this to be a blessing to me and to my family, and for me to be able to give the best part of me when I do. And so, you know, I think for me, for example, where I've chosen to really go the retail route, because I love to see the emotion and the reaction and the connection with people. Maybe a lot of introverts don't like to do that. They are fine to be in the studio creating and then work through a gallery to sell their work. I just always tell people, just realize that when you do that, there are different things you have to take into consideration. For example, if you're going to be in a gallery, realize they're going to take 50% of your money. You're there to pay their car payment, okay? And so you can't get all upset about that, you know, and nobody loves me and I can't make any money and all that. No, you got to learn how to price your work in a way that will work for that, and vice versa. So I think it's just about, you know, so many people, and artists especially, because we're wired in a more sensitive, intuitive way, we're used to believing that every feeling and every thought and everything that kind of comes across our mind is the way that it is. And that's just not true. You know, there are a lot of these things that come across like arrows. They're just like, you know, and you can either let that thing stick, you know, you suck, you're bad, you'll never make money, you're a starving artist, blah, blah. Or you can take that thing and look at it and go, I'm not receiving that. I'm just going to get rid of that. I'm going to replace that with the truth. And you begin to build confidence, and you can create a life that's beautiful and authentic to who you are.
That's really beautiful. And it speaks, and Kara was talking about, you know, in the chat there about the courage required for success, you know, as a challenge. And I think you're speaking into that right now. And so any more that you could speak into building the courage would be great. And I know that I'm kind of the opposite of you. I am a introvert personality style that has had to work really hard on being able to do public speaking, and, you know, and I'm still stutter over my words, and I'm
You're
just
going to need an app after this. You'll be like, oh,
you know. That's right. And you usually do. Yeah. So there is introverted ways to create a connection still, you would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, whereas an extrovert might be great with big crowds or larger groups or public speaking. An introvert is going to be much better one-on-one. And so that's why I think the medium of video is so powerful. You know, you can really create intimacy with people, learning to look into the camera and create a relationship in ways that maybe extroverts don't. You know, extroverts are big picture people and fast moving, whereas a lot of times introverts are more detail oriented and smaller picture and slower moving, slower processing. So, you know, for me, I have trouble with people who come in and are like, well, we want to think about it and we're not sure. And could you tell us about this? And I'm like, doggone it. Well, do you want to buy it or not? Come on. You know, as we say in the South, Jesus, take the wheel. It's like, come on. You know? And so, whereas more of a kind of fast moving, you know, jovial kind of interaction, that's going to be really great for me. And so again, it's just knowing how you sell. And I think that the more you do that authentically and in confidence, the more you're going to attract the right people that are attracted to you and that will buy from you. So,
well, let me ask you a question. You had mentioned that your assistant is camera shy and over there in the corner. And I believe that when we're most successful, we staff to our weakness.
Yeah.
We recognize the area in which we don't have a strength, and so we pull other people. And today, you know, most of us may not have the opportunity to hire an assistant to be there in the building with us, but we can do affiliates and we can do partnerships, and we can find ways, you know, that are even virtual to be able to get that input. If nothing else, if you're not working literally together, we can at least form like a mastermind group in which that connects. Right. Now, me, I'm the 4 personality styles, the one called the sanguine or the otter personality style, if anybody's familiar with it. I'm the least, right? You know, and so the other parts I'm pretty good at. I can get that up here. And I found that I collect sanguines in my life. I collect people like you. I collect people that have that vantage point, and they can see the world from that view. Yeah. And as soon as I will go and talk to them, you know, I'll say, hey, I'm considering this. They can get half of a sentence out, and it's like the synapses connect in my brain, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Now I see it, you know. But I can't get there on my own. And so we're all that way. We all have strengths and weaknesses in which we all have to come together, and we're supposed to live, you know, not independently and not dependently, but interdependently together. That's a healthy way with our life and with our business and with our art and even how we make our art. And I love hearing what you're saying right now, and I bet you're doing that with the lady hiding in the corner.
Well, you know, where I learned that, I think I've been married 21 years, and I think, you know, being married that long, we really learned to receive each other as a gift. That my wife Tanya has a different way of seeing the world than I do, and that's a gift I believe that God put in my life so that I could, you know, really thrive, and so should she. And so it's funny, as the studio started to grow, I realized that I work like in a rat's nest. I mean, I'm just nasty when I work, and I'm like, you know, you can look at all this back here, like, I mean, look at my desk. It's hard. And yet I have all this over here that's, you know, we got materials for days, but they got to be stacked and sized and cleaned and blah, blah, you know, all that. And so I realized real quick, that is not me, but that needs to be done. And so I need to do that. So yeah, absolutely. I think for the artist that's growing their business, you got to do only the things that you can do, and then hire to your weakness. So is that getting somebody to do your books? Is that getting somebody to do your taxes every year? Don't freak out about those things. Just realize, okay, I'm not good at it. That's totally fine. I just need to find somebody that can, so that I can go do the things that I'm really great at.
Yeah, and I think if we spend 80-90% of that mode, you know, in our own mode, then we're living a very happy and productive life. You know, there's the work, you know, because we do have to have a business sense. You know, we have to gain those things if we currently don't have them, at least to be able to, like I've mentioned, you know, wrapping our brain around it. And so I find that we're born one way, you know, where we've got these great skill sets, you know, and gifts that we have, and then the rest of it is work.
Yeah.
You have to earn this one. Yeah. So, but we're happiest when we're in that mode. But to be honest with you, you know, now I love public speaking. I look for opportunities to be able to speak, and that was so outside of my nature before. And so it just admit, you know, that message of hope, I guess, is that if any of what Matt's sharing with you today is intimidating to you, just grow, take small steps, day by day, week by week, and you never know, it could be something that you end up being very passionate about that you never thought that you would ever enjoy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those things. I think you've got to take each step day by day, do the things that you can do, not take on the shame and all the other stuff that life wants to throw at you. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, it's really hard is that, I mentioned people commenting some things like that's really good. That's good insight. I'm just learning this, And so and as a life coach, that's one of the neatest things that I love to impart to people is a totally different paradigm that helps set them free and help them know that they don't have to be perfect
Sure.
but they can grow. And so, that kind of pulls us into, coaching and mentoring. How important is mentoring if we're going to get where we need to go in all this?
Well, I've had a number of coaches in my life and mentors in my life. And I think one of the things I really embraced early on is that if I want to grow, there are things that I need to realize that I don't know. Because if I did know them, I'd be doing them. Hello. And so, I think that's one of the big things that is like people kind of get a lot of pride around. They're like, well, I don't need that. I don't know. Who is he to tell me this? And I'm like, well, honey, listen, there are people that know more than you, that have done more than you, that in whatever area. And I'm not saying I've got it all together, but in this area, I've really, I've grown a lot and I've stepped in a lot of potholes and that sort of thing. And so I just determined in my life that that's the kind of people I really wanted to learn from. That's the kind of people I wanted to receive from in my life, is people that have really done the work and that I wanted to model my life after. And so for me, I kind of came to mentoring as a mentor, I didn't necessarily want to do it. I had written books and had spoken all over the world to primarily Christian artists about their faith, the intersection of their faith and their creativity and things like that. And then my business really started getting blessed and just really thriving, and people wanted to know about that. And I started trying to do one-on-one coaching, and I'm like, I'm not that guy, because I'd be like, dude, I told you to do this last week. Why didn't you do it? Come on, And, just through a series of trial and error and that sort of thing, I began to experiment with this idea of group coaching and group mentoring. And about 18 months ago, I started something called Created to Thrive, which is an online artist mentoring program. And it has just exceeded it's crazy. We've got almost 700 members now. It's a subscription-based thing. And the whole point of it is this intersection between your faith and your art, growing as an artist, and then also your business. Because I find, for me, I teach from a Christian perspective. That was really important for me to kind of have a holistic perspective in what I was doing, not trying to do things that were outside of that vital spiritual relationship that I hold dear. And I found that really resonated with other people. And so it became this really beautiful, not only opportunity to teach, but the thing that is the most powerful is the community, because now you're walking with hundreds of other artists that are going through the exact same thing, either further behind or further ahead of you. And it is incredibly life-changing. And it's such an honor to be able to see the potholes that I've stepped in and the things that I've learned over the years now really become the seeds of inspiration and growth for others. And
that's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. Sandra, was we interviewed her 2 weeks ago on here. And of course, she's one of your mentees. You are her mentor, and yet she's also talked about how she is mentoring now. And so, and I think that's just that's exactly the way that we should be living life, in probably every area of our life is that we're constantly being mentored, but we also are mentoring somebody else.
That's right.
And so that way we're all growing and helping each other that way. And I think it's just the way that we're built. We just have a need to give back, particularly at certain developmental stages, of our life in our 40s, 50s, and 60s. We really we're like, what can I impart, to somebody else? And we have a spiritual, really,
I think
desire
it's good
to be able to give.
To realize, even, I'm at this place in my journey, somebody told me one time that, everybody's got a backstage, everybody's got a backstory. And just because you see me here now, selling work and in magazines and blah, 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 all this kind of stuff, I didn't start like that. And
That's
not
right.
only do other people need to see that, I need to remember that I've not always been here, and that there are fundamentals that got me here, and that there are fundamentals that I need to continue to incorporate into my life if I want to keep thriving and doing what I'm doing well. And so I think the mentoring relationship for me is as much, it feeds me as much as it feeds them and the community, and it's wonderful. So.
Oh yeah, and I can identify with that too. I learned so much more from my clients for the last 20
Yeah.
years, and I learned so much more from the people that I coach, even professionally, about how to do. My main coaching is focusing on people that want to now teach this art form,
Yeah.
and go and do workshops and stuff, which has been just a really huge blessing in my life.
Yeah.
So it's been it's showing people how to do that. But the way that I learned how to do
Sure.
it though is that I started a group about a year ago, and about 4 months later I lost my job, and I needed that to replace my income, and it has. And so the people that were already in this group, it was just mutual,
Yeah.
and they helped me so much, and I've become kind of, I don't know, the spoke of the wheel here, and so all that information kind of gets through me. So I have an ability now to disseminate not genius things that I created, but what I've learned from other people.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I bet that you're the same way.
Yeah.
You received from other people, and other sources, and now you have the capacity to be able to give to others. Could you tell us a little bit about the structure of the mentoring program? What would it mean to join, and what do you do, and what's the week look like, and resources available, if you don't mind?
Yeah, no, not at all. So it's every week I do a different teaching module, and that's in the context of a monthly focus. So this month we're talking about how to build a following online. Last month we talked about how to hear God's voice. The month before that was all about how to develop a unique artistic voice. So I mean, just everything, all those topics come out of the group, And so for the next 18 months, I've got planned out, what we're going to be talking about. And then I always throw in those extra, things. Every video has a worksheet and has homework with it, and it's all at your own pace. There's no such thing as behind. Everybody, you can come in. We've got what I call a success path, that you start with renewing and cultivating your heart and mind, and then you move to your art, your brand, your business, and your life. And through that process, you begin to build a holistic approach, not only to life, but to art, your spiritual relationship. And it really builds, I think, a real healthy foundation for growth and for everything that you're doing. The other things that happen, not only just the teaching, every Tuesday is question day. So you can ask me anything you want, and we collect all of those. And then I sit here just like this on Thursdays in our group on Facebook and on the website, and I answer every one of those questions personally. And so that has become a real valuable thing for people, just because, they feel like they can ask me anything, and they can, So, and then, like today we did a member spotlight. So all of our members record videos of aha moments or things like that. So we featured one of our members. We have a "What are you working on?" post, and we just lots of things to keep it fresh. But it's all around really focused teaching and helping you move quickly, as quickly as you want to and can, just through life, through this success path of cultivating your heart and mind, art, business, brand, and life. So.
Well, I'm also hearing that connection again, is that now the members, the 700 members, have an opportunity to be able to connect with each other. And then there's that, we've all heard the word synergy, this, the synergy effect, of connecting with other people. And there we have, again, that people of the different 4 temperaments now speaking into your area of weakness, or being able to shore you up in some areas. I mean, I would imagine that, that is just as valuable as the information that you're giving.
Absolutely. And we do that. We've got a monthly thing we do called mastermind groups. And Sandra's one of our leaders. We've got incredible peer-led groups that you come on, choose a time that works for you, and you're there with 5 or 6 other artists on Skype, and talking one-on-one with other members about what's going on in your life, and how to support each other. And then once a year we do that live in a big mastermind weekend, in addition to our Gathering of Artisans weekend, which is one of the largest Christian artist conferences in the country. So we do things online, but we're also getting together live. And it's so funny for me to see people who have been online friends, and then you become real friends, And it's like, I still love you. You're not weird. It's like, but it's like family. It's awesome. Like family. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. Neat. Now, so probably a lot of people might be unfamiliar with the word mastermind.
Yeah.
And so I'll speak into it real briefly, if you don't mind, then you add to
Sure.
it, please. Is that it was a concept that was really begun in the 80s, and it was part of the positive thinking movement. And so it had a lot of, some of it got just a little bit weird, but it's now, now it's, you know, it's a really substantiated and even high executive business concept. There are masterminds that I know about that people pay $50,000 a month to be a part of that mastermind. Now that's New York City, and those are leasing realtors, right?
Mine is not quite that, so it's
yeah, no. Close, right? We got a deal for us today, not 50,000. But there is, the concept is that it doesn't really have, you can have guru led, you know, which is, you know, somebody who is given some expertise in there, but most of the real value that's in the mastermind is just that communal connection. Right. And we're able to just hear. It's one of the reasons why Alcoholics Anonymous has been so successful in helping addicts overcome for the last 80 years. Is that you get a group of people that are working on a similar issue together, you have that camaraderie, and magic happens whenever somebody across the circle, or virtually in this case, asks the same question, or says, this is how I solve that problem, or even speaks into an area that you didn't even know that you need to be asking yet, and you know, solving your problems ahead of time. That insight is so key, and that it's so very, very valuable for where we're going to next.
Yeah, and I'm in a mastermind group myself, separate from what I do. I'm in a receiver mastermind group, and it is it's not cheap, but it's it's a really wonderful opportunity to be able to hear people that are at your same level and beyond, because everybody, again, that whole personality thing and the way they approach their business, you get a different perspective. And I can't tell you how many times, even at the mastermind weekend we did back in March here in Asheville, I taught, and it was great. You know, people got a lot out of it, I hope, and that sort of thing. But the magic really happened. The beauty happened as people were around the tables and they're talking to each other and praying for each other. People are crying and my life has changed. And I mean, it's awesome. You know, I love that. And so that happens on a monthly basis with us in the group, and it's really powerful. So.
That is. There's in the field of counseling, there's some very specific types of conferences, and some of them are very expensive. And some of the advice that I heard early on, and I kind of did this once, is that if you can't afford to go to the conference, just go and hang out in the lobby. And I mean, all these incredible life-changing stories of people, you know, next year they could afford to go, you know, but they just hung out in the lobby, you know, and they just watched and saw, and they got this kind of connection with other people that, you know, maybe some conversations that took place there, even though they weren't able to participate in everything. And that just kind of speaks into that chunk, that element, you know, that's there, that we really need. And I think we don't value in our society. We've lost a connection with that, because, you know, we used to exist in huge families that, you know, agrarian societies, and that you were in community, and we had a communal living, and you felt safe because if something failed that you were working on, you knew that your cousins and aunts and uncles were there to bail you out. And, you know, we've lost that in our society. And I think it's the number one reason why we are so stressed. And while America represents about 10% of the population on the planet, we consume 90% of the mental health medications of the whole world. And so, you know, there's something wrong in our culture in which we could learn, you know, from other cultures and maybe even from our past. And I think it speaks into what you're talking about right now with mentoring and mastermind and the synergy that is there. So now you do a monthly thing, which is a theme. So let's say that we had somebody who joined today. Would they have access to previous information?
That's the beautiful thing. You know, as you're joining, you get all the benefit of all these other ones. So we've done, oh gosh, I mean, it's well over 100. I've been doing this 18 months, and it's probably up in 140, 150 videos plus the articles and podcasts and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And so it's, you get all of that. Plus, when you become a member, you get actually 3 of my books free. Unlocking Art of the Artist, Creativity According to the Kingdom, and also Crafting Your Brand, which is all about marketing. All of those come free in there. So
well, slow down and break those books down to us. What are the distinct differences between those books?
Yeah, so Unlocking was the first book I did. It was really about helping artists move out of that starving artist mentality and that kind of place of brokenness and woundedness in their life and saying, hey, this is how you were created. And you're created, the very thing that you think may be weird about you is probably the very thing that's been divinely put inside of you to be beautiful and to be your life. And so
I like that message because I've always been called very weird.
Yeah.
So
you're weird on purpose, and that's good. Creativity according to the kingdom is kind of a theological basis for all of that from a Christian perspective. And then crafting your brand was the kind of the fruit of a marketing course that I've been teaching for years for artists that I put into a really small, easy to read book, and it's good. Then my latest book is called Created to Thrive, and there's an e-course, an audio book, and blah blah blah, all that with that. And all of those are on Amazon, but the first 3 you get free when you become a member of Created to Thrive. And then, you know, everything that we do is archived. So all the live videos, all the teaching videos, and I give you a pathway. I think the number one thing why people struggle, artists in particular, I've found, is overwhelm. They just don't know where to start. And once they get started, they don't know how to keep going. And that's the biggest thing that we help people try to do in Created to Thrive. We actually this week are doing a major website upgrade, and we've migrated over to a new website that gives you a progress tracker and tells you exactly where you are. So no matter if you have to go on vacation for 2 weeks, or grandma's in the hospital, or whatever, or life just gets crazy, you can come right back to where you were and keep moving in your own journey with focus while you're in community, which is huge. So. Man,
that really just sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It really does. And so it's like an extremely generous offer. So from the upfront, you get those books.
You do,
and then
get also
the archive of 18 months of what's already existed, and then you go forward.
That's right.
And I think we live in this information overload, era now, and we're blessed to be able to pull up YouTube videos on how to change your doorknobs or whatever you need to do in life. But whenever it comes to asking these questions, the goofy part is that anybody can put a video out there, and they might be totally wrong, or maybe they were right for them but not right for you. And so, you can get into all kinds, and I know that I've been guilty of, chasing down the wrong rabbit hole. I've gone down the wrong path. And so, and especially in this, high tech, low touch environment where we don't really know that person. And so in going with what the systems that you've built and the history that you have, and of course the connection, that you mentioned, is now you got that safety factor. Right. This has worked not only for Matt, but it's also worked for a lot of other people. Yeah. And so it can work for me. And that message of hope can inspire us to go forward.
And, I always tell people, I love for people to become a part of the mentoring program. It's the most incredible thing I think I've ever done in ministry and business and helping artists and that sort of thing. But, we have a free Facebook group called Thriving Christian Artists. We've got my podcast, blogs, all that's free. And so go check me out. And if I'm crazy, find somebody else to listen to, but if it's something that you resonate with, which I hope it will be, and you may know friends that are in it, and ask them and ask them, because I never try to do the hard sell on anybody. I'm like, we're all at different places in our journey. And if what I've got to offer can be a blessing in that, I'm glad to do it and happy to do it. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's really good. Good. Maybe you can post a link for us in this, as far as like the starting place for people to be able to do that. And I know that you are about, 2/3 of the way through the 30-day challenge, which is the second one that you've done this year. I participated in the first one.
Yes,
in January.
We've got a 30-day art challenge in my the public group that's called the Thriving Christian Artist. And so anybody can join now. You can still become involved in that. And it's just 30 days of prompts, and every creative medium is welcome. It's really great. But you can do that on Facebook. But then also to start, if you just go to matttommeymentoring.com, and maybe Sandra or somebody that's on now could throw that up in the link. But if you go there, you can see all the blog stuff that I've written. And if you want to become a part of the group, you can definitely do that right there at the website. And
well, you have a lot of free resources. I know there's a list of blogs that I've been really enjoying. I usually have one of those playing in the background while I'm.
And then the podcast. Yeah, the podcast is free. There's a whole season and a half now on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, all that. It's called the Thriving Christian Artist Podcast, and you can get that, listen to it free. And so, like I said, some people will just be like, man, I'm in. And then other people were like, I don't know this guy. I'm going to try him out. So go listen to the podcast. Come join the free group, whatever, just however we can be a blessing in your life. I'm glad to. So
that's really neat. That's really neat. Well, great. So anything else that you'd like to share with the group today? I know that we've talked about some key things.
Yeah.
One is building a relationship, and then there's some how-tos, and then we talked about mentoring, and that we really have to have that today. And is there anything of a super practical nature on selling our art, or something that's just kind of more about the mindset change that we need to make, or the lifestyle change that we need to make, and just anywhere you'd like to go?
Yeah, I think one of the things that, as I look at what really helped me thrive, I think one of the key things is being around people who are further along in the journey than you are. Because we all start to believe our own press, and we begin to, we kind of live in our bubble, and it is a huge, incredible thing, your group, what I'm doing, to be around other people that are further along than you are, to inspire you to say, wow, this is great, but I want to keep going. And if you'll do that and keep growing your skill and connecting with people, you will develop into the artist that you were created to be. And that's a wonderful place to be. So
that's awesome. It's really great.
Yeah.
Well, part of your protege, Sandra, has been very inspirational on this group, and of course the interview that she did.
Yeah.
And she's got such a following, and people just connect with her so
She's awesome.
easily. Yeah. She's got such a great personality and just peacefulness, about her.
Yeah.
And so that's just really awesome. And I love the room for so many different styles, and how everybody, you could be listening to this and not at all feel like you're like Sandra or like me or like Matt, but that doesn't matter. Is that we all have, we're all like a puzzle piece. We can all fit together. Yeah. And there's a place and a way for you to be able to do that. So I think the number one reason why I wanted to get Matt, on here is to talk about mentoring, and about how absolutely vital that is. And so you can be mentored by Matt, you can be mentored by me, you can be mentored by Sandra, you could find all kinds of resources that are available out there. But the main thing is that you just need to get one. Yeah. And probably, pride and, kind of just an attitude of independence is the number one cause of failure. Would you agree,
Absolutely.
Matt? It's just being,
I already know it,
just
right?
being
People
able.
like, I know that. Well, I'm like, honey, listen, knowledge and information does not make change. Application is what makes change. All right. You can know all kind of stuff, and it doesn't make a bit of difference. So.
I tell you, 99% of the time, people think they go to see a counselor or a coach and they're going to give them information or advice. And 99% of the time, the answer comes from them. It's already in there. Yeah. It just needs to be, brought out, validated, seen, that way. And they already have the information, but it was just setting up here and was not serving them whatsoever. So there needs more of an experiential, usually emotional, engaged process to get what was inside out. Yeah. And now you can look at it and go, hey, I can do this. I can take action on this. I can take a step. I can do one of the things that Matt suggested today, right. And I can implement that into my art creation or my art sales. And that's really just the beginning. And who knows where things could end up.
That's right.
You could be, selling, $10,000 features on people's mantles in 10 years. So
that's awesome. Well, what a pleasure.
Anything else?
So much fun. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been such a great time to chat. And so
great. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for joining us. I really appreciate it. We'll have those resources. Sandra's already put the link here, and so she's such a faithful person. And so you guys check out Matt. He's got a ton of free stuff, and then you might really want to consider joining his mentoring program. And so, Matt, thank you so much for being with us today.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right, bye.
Bye.